place the fist in the Mingmen, and the other hand by the lifting up by the heart. So when we do that stretch of just pushing the two hands up in prayer, reaching up to the sky, there's that sense of the spine above the Mingmen arching to lift the heart. But we also want the feeling that the spine beneath the Mingmen is trying to extend the tail backwards. So one of the things that came out of London for me was just how important the tail is. And the only time I remember with John in Blakeney working on the tail, or him trying to get me and Charles to work with him, he got us feeling that we had a kangaroo's tail. So think of the kangaroo's tail, it's big and it's strong. And when they fight, when the male kangaroos fight, they can actually rest on their tail and kick the opponent as well as punch them. So the tail is strong enough to actually support the body. And this is the feeling that we want. It's that the tail extends backwards and I can always almost sit on it and just feel the muscles you need to tighten down here to push the tail down into the cushion. Okay, and now let's try the stretching. So reaching up, and just feel that part of the spine beneath the Mingmen driving into the cushion. And then down. And my lower back is tightening to extend the hands up and drive my tail down the back. And now the belly tightens to pull down. And if we're doing natural breathing, then we breathe in as we extend and we breathe out as we tighten the belly and contract. If we're doing reverse breathing, we just switch them round. And then up and out, palms facing up and turning the head. And then clasping the hands behind the back, really pinching the shoulder blades together and rotating the head. Winding it down. And then holding the elbows behind the back. So the arms at the back are probably higher than the Ming Men, but it's that same feeling. The position of the arms are arching the spine. And now let's just lean. So forwards. And up. Then over one knee. So if it's painful, just go a little bit into the pain. You can always bring the hands out and just press on the far knee to brace yourself. And up. And the other side. And up. And let's try those shoulder stretches. So, and the other side. Thing about holding hands. And the other side. And then the one where we reach up the spine. If you can, the other side. and releasing it. And now let's try a bit with the stick. And then bring it up to the neck. And just feel the elbows. So the elbows are sinking and swinging forwards. It's very similar to the sacrum when we're standing. And then just turning a little bit. And the tipping. And then just extending the stick above the head. And let's do some more tipping. Just be careful here. and then letting the stick down. Just feel how much the chest needs to lift to get the arms to go over the top. Good. And now it's just stretching the stick so the hand's pulling apart. So we just set up a gentle force and try and relax around it. So every muscle that doesn't need to be used is relaxing. And we're using this exercise to help open the heart. And then reversing and pushing the hands towards each other. So you can feel this is the back heart opening. And then pulling again. And pushing. And now let's just do those stretches with one hand at a time. So reaching up, so the little finger leading. And reaching forwards. Then reaching to the side. And then the strong twist. And the other side. And releasing out. So when they meditate, especially the Zen guys, so they get into lotus, and when they're sitting, they're actually pushing their knees down. And it gives a sense that you're sort of rising off the cushion, like there's not as much weight driving through the sitting bones. And even if we can't do it physically, we can imagine. Yeah. So just feel as though your knees are just digging down and it's just providing a lift up the middle. It's especially useful if your legs fall asleep when you're meditating, which mine often do. And you just use the knees on the ground, it just brings them alive again, wakes them up. Okay, now let's just try that leaning that we did, but with the hands on the knees. And just leaning forwards. Pushing back up. And now just keeping the hands on each knee, just turn and lean over just one of the knees and use the back hand to push that far knee down so it doesn't come off the ground. And up. And on the other side. And up. And into prayer. Let's just feel the Ming Men. So bring the fist down. So, we only really get a proper feeling of the Min Meng if we can get the spine beneath it, pushing down and back. It's similar to the feeling of pushing the knees down. And just turn the front hand up. And just bring the mind to the elbows, so like heavy elbows. So this elbow is sort of trying to swing forwards, which is pushing my fist into the Ming Men. This elbow is dropping down and moving backwards, which is helping this front hand lift up. So to start with in Tai Chi, of course, it's all about heaviness, about sinking, opening up to gravity. But then once you're down, it's all about levity. It's all about that lift through yourself. And that's an aspect of the mind, the mood. So we have to become masters of our moods. We can produce a good, light mood whenever one is required. We don't get stuck. There is a lightness that comes from heaviness. Okay, now let's just try a bit of the butterfly. And that lovely Paul Valery quote I posted today. It is necessary to be light like a bird, not like a feather. Yeah, so we're light not because we don't weigh anything, but because we are infused with a light spirit. So there's something lifting inside us that, if you get it really well, it almost feels like you come off the cushion. The enemy really is anything that weighs you down. And then let's kneel. And into the fetus, so however you get into it. And up, separating the feet, sitting down between them. And then just leaning back a little to get added stretch in the thighs. And up. And then lying back and cycling. So this one's actually important, surprisingly, because it really gets the belly muscles. You have to do it a long time. And then just round into the squat. So when we have our heels down in this posture, then it's as though your Ming Men is squeezing backwards. And then if we come off the heels, then you can get that sense of the fist on the Ming Men driving forwards and the tail really trying to extend backwards. That's good. Yeah. It's the beauty of the heels up. Everything becomes exciting. Okay, so just starting with a bit of the heart qigong, but first of all, just lifting the heels or lightening the heels. So we have this sort of springy, bouncy relationship with the ground. So the gravity and the levity balanced. A magical equilibrium. And then just reaching. There's gathering really, sort of reaching up and out. And then bringing it all down to the dantian. The dantian's your sort of repository, your reservoir. So feel the spine arching to reach up and out. And then to get my hands to come in, I need to tighten the belly a little bit. And then to get the hands to come down, I really need to use the belly. And just try and feel the part of the spine beneath the Ming Men. So it's the spine above the Ming Men that's working to bring the arms up and out. But I want that to come from the feeling in the lower part of the spine. And then I pull and it all comes in. Stop activity, return to stillness. And now let's just do and that activity will be even more active. So that's the heart burst. This is sort of just gathering your attention and letting it settle in the dantian, so mind in the dantian. And then this is the heart exploding. Okay. Okay, let's just start these with knocking the gates of life, or the gate of life, knocking the Ming Men. So I want my arms to be loose, really like the way we normally do it, but I want my back hand to strike the Ming Men. So this was the only time the Ming Men was ever mentioned when we learned Tai Chi. So get it established and then just start bringing the heels off the ground. The back one. So as I turn to the left, my right heel just lifts a little. There's a feeling that the heels, they go down, but never long enough to really establish a root. So kissing the ground, the heel goes down, but then it comes up again. So this feeling that there's only ever one heel on the ground at a time, if that. Feel the tail. You have a kangaroo's tail that's resting on the floor behind you, strong enough so that you can take your feet off the ground. And then just let it wind down naturally. And then just bringing the hands onto the hip bones either side of the sacrum. So the little fingers are actually digging into the sacrum. And then again, just feel that heavy elbows. The elbows are dropping, but also swinging forwards. And that is bringing me off the heels and righting my spine. Okay. Have you got a chair there? Let's just try a little bit with the chair. Yeah, so I remember what we did when we were together and using the other person. So the other person was standing there with a sort of rigid arm, and you sort of push into the arm, but it's like your mind goes through their body and finds their root, so their far leg, And if you push into it and they don't yield, they don't collapse, then your push will get them to send a stream of energy, which you then coast surf. So when you get the same feeling here, I mean, it's difficult with the chair because it's so light. I want the feeling that I'm pushing into the chair, but I'm trying to find that back foot, that left back foot here. So I'm pushing down until I feel the chair pushing back, and then I can let myself flow along that. This feeling that, whenever you put your hands on something, you're trying to find its root, which you'll naturally be taken there if you're just aware. So you're feeling the connection that the chair has with the ground. So I'm feeling that root. The chair's rooted as well as me. It has a connection with the ground. And just feel you have to just induce levity because these forces are so gentle. It's not enough to move my mass. So I need to counter my mass with levity. I need to make myself weightless. And if we come off the heels, then we're much more weightless. So I'm pushing the chair, but I'm really pushing the ground through the chair. Let's bring the feet up a bit. And now just going up and down. Again, just trying to stay off the heels. So I pull the chair up and that pulls my body down. Just feel the spine beneath the Ming Men. And then pushing the chair down and letting yourself drift upwards. Just try and feel the energy, the stream that's produced by your interaction with the chair. So I push down, that will naturally just produce a lift, which my mind decides to ride. I could quite easily resist it, of course, because it's so gentle. And then just a few of the turning. So I'm going to push the chair forwards with one hand, and that will push that hip backwards. And then I pull the chair towards me, and that will draw my hip towards the chair. And again, just try and feel the connection the chair has with the ground. And some with the other hand. Okay, right. And now let's just try the squatting. So sitting on the chair to start with. So right on the edge of the chair. So if you want to do this with the heels up, then you need to have the feet pretty close to the chair, otherwise you'll never find it on the way down. So to come up, to come forwards and up, it's my heart, my thymus. To go down and sit back down, it's the tail. So I lean forwards. I just reach that point of equilibrium where I can just lift my bum off the chair a little bit, and then I just let my heart fly and lift me up. And then I just bring my attention to the tip of my tail, and that is now reaching down and back, searching for the chair. Once it finds it, you can come back to vertical. And then again, leaning forwards, feel the heart. It's like a bird, it just takes off. Like a bird, not like a feather. And then down. Again, forwards and ooh. So it's the spirit, the divine spark. That's all we're trying to do, is just wake that up, become aware of it. Down. Just feel how the mood of descending is so different from the mood of ascending. That mood of descending that we're getting here, we'd like our sinking in Tai Chi to have the same mood. So we're not just releasing to gravity, the tail is actively trying to find the ground when we sink. So let's try one more. Feel the bird in the chest, and it's like a white dove, with the olive branch. And then just into prayer. And just bring the fist to the Ming Men. So the presence of the fist on the Ming Men helps the tail go down and back, and it also helps the bird in the chest lift. Okay, let's put the chair back. And now just moving from leg to leg. So I lift the heel. That's like a burst of spirit that starts me moving towards the foot. I'm pulling all the time. I'm never really pushing. If I was working with my physicality, then I would probably be pushing, but here just working with spirit as much as is possible. And then just a bit turning, but with the heels up. So we want lifting the heels to really make us aware of the tail. And then just turning. Think of the hands as two metal detectors. So you're scanning the ground. And then just a little bit of this one. And to start with in Tai Chi, we relaxing and just trying to trust the ground as support and sink. The ground will just take all of your crap if you're willing to give it. And it will also physically support you, not just with your feet on the ground, but with nourishment as well. But then eventually we want to give the ground up, and it's the spirit that supports us. So this is the heels up is the beginnings of that. So I remember in London, when you were leaning on the other person, face on, that you're both, so it's like a balance of trusts. You're leaning into them, the heels come up, and you have to completely trust the other person. And that quality of touch, it's springy, it's vibrant, it's alive, not like the touch that we have with the ground. So when the heel goes down, just try and feel it robbing you of a little bit of your spirit. You become too stable in a way. And because of that, the mind just goes AWOL, just starts thinking to itself. So the divine spark, that sort of unbearably light quality, it's just Christ. Yeah. So Christ is just the divine spark. So we all are Christ. We all contain it. It's just that Jesus was the figure in our culture that most clearly and most fully realized his own Christ, his own divine spark. But it's all, it's possible for us as well. As Richard Rohr points out, he never once said, worship me, but he often said, follow me, follow my example, follow my lead, become like me. That's the message. And for me, the cross, it's a negative thing. It just means we've chickened out, we've sold our divine spark for the sake of bourgeois comforts. That's the cross we carry. We've made a Faustian pact with Satan. And Satan is just the ego and its various forms. And then just the light jog. So feeling, the gravity, the heaviness of the body and the lightness of the spirit. And just letting them balance. That's all we're trying to do, really. Light, fleet of foot, felicitous. Okay. Let's just try a bit going backwards and forwards. So to move into the foot, I lift the heel, and that starts me pulling. And as I feel that foot, the other side becomes empty and active. Remember that distinction between psychotherapy and psychoanalysis. So psychotherapy aims to heal and rehabilitate a damaged ego. Psychoanalysis simply aims to uncover the unconscious. And that's very similar to realizing the divine spark. So when Freud first came up with psychoanalysis, they used to call it the new religion. So you're believing in something that's not concrete, the unconscious, which is what they're now saying. It's not just, the repository of repressed feelings and emotions. It's just, every part of you that's just not rational, really. The feelings, spirit, energy, love. Just feel the tail. So think of your real connection with the ground, your energetic connection with the ground is more through the tail than through the foot. So I need to wake up my tail and extend it. So everything that happens in the upper body happens because it's already happened in the tail. And then a little with the other foot forwards. Yeah. So when my heel goes down, my mind becomes heavy. When my heel lifts, I have spirit. When my heel goes down, I have a root. But the trouble is, I tend to also have a noisy mind. Okay, let's just try this one again. Okay, now stepping. So placing the foot and then lifting the other one. So when I was away, spent just over a week up north, and it's so depressing up north, I can tell you. And so just living with boredom, so just going for long walks and just watching how the feet go down, because they go down with this figure of eight around the foot. I mean, when we're working here, we put the big toe down and then we just try and scoop around the heel and then around the front of the foot oppositely. So the figure of eight. So I'm going around the heel, around the front of the foot, and then when I get into the big toe, I've made a complete figure of eight and my back foot can come off the ground. So let's just try that. So it's the figure of eight in the foot. It's just really important. The hips and the sacroiliacs need to be loose. And then you just find that as you send your foot out to step, it just happens naturally, go, and then as the heel goes down, if you're stepping forwards, as the foot goes out, the heel goes down. But of course, as it goes down, it's pulling. If it was pushing, I'd be stopping all the time. So it goes down and I pull back to actually pull myself forwards. And so when we actually walk with it, it's not the big toe so much, but the heel. But when we're doing it deliberately like this, we can get the whole circuit. So the big toe, then it comes in the inside edge of the front of the foot, crosses over the foot into the outside edge of the heel, around the back of the heel, inside edge of the heel, through the foot again, little toe all the way through to the big toe. And that is natural. If, especially this here, this is loose, then that's the way we naturally come into the foot. You need a bit of looseness in the sacroiliac as well. So, whoa. Yeah, so we're working, yes, slowly, softly, delicately. And that just requires spirit. All of that requires spirit. So when you see someone walking along, if they're walking well and they're reasonably happy, they're almost floating above the ground a little bit. So how's that possible? If they weigh 70 kilos, how can they do that? It's because their spirits are just up and it lightens everything. So, wow. Cats are best at it. You see a cat just leap onto like a high wall, and you can see their spirit. Their spirit just leaps, and their body follows. So when I was at home, my brother, he told me about when his dear cat Molly, croaked, and he said, there she was lying curled up. And he said, by all intents, we thought she'd already died. We thought she was dead. And then suddenly she just lifted her head, opened the mouth wide. And he said you could see the spirit just leaving through her mouth. And then she just flopped. And that was it. Ah, yeah, so this is how we walk. The foot that steps out catches the ground with the heel, that then pulls me into the front of the foot, and then the back foot propels me off the ground, largely with the strength of the big toe. That's what we've forgotten how to do. We've forgotten how to use our big toes. Partly because, or largely because we wear shoes. Round the heel. And into the big toe. Just really dig the big toe down. Yeah, so you need the big toe, strengthen the big toe to stop your inner arch collapsing. Yeah, so nowadays people just wear trainers with a built-up arch, which is, that will weaken the foot, if anything will. And then you start to bring your attention to the tail. So the tail is tracing this same figure of 8 that you're feeling in the foot. So my tail is sticking out and then pulling around and then around the front. Okay. And now let's just try a bit of the squatting, but without the chair. Exactly the same. So if you can, off the heels, but just be careful. So mind in the tail, my tail goes down. If I'm off the heels, then I can sort of keep my spine vertical as I go down. And then the bird in the heart lifting me up. Feeling the tail or the spine beneath the Ming Men. And then just bringing your attention to the thymus, and I lift. And one more. Yeah, lovely. And now let's just squat down. And then just stretching a leg. And the other side. And the other side again. And the other side. And then back into the sumo squat. So the heels up. And the fist on the Ming Men. Feel the spine beneath that, squeezing back. Remember that story from the Tai Chi classics about, the masters, they could hold a sparrow on their palm and the sparrow wouldn't be able to take off because every time it tried to push down with its feet to get the propulsion, the master would just yield. So the sparrow would just naturally just feel that this surface was not one you could take off from, so they wouldn't even try taking off. So that's the quality of our touch. It's so delicate and lively. So the levity that's lifting is balancing the weight of the arm, which is pulling it down. So all the time, just trying to relax this damn shoulder. So it's not muscle holding my arm up, it's just my spirit. Okay. And now let's just try just a minute or so, just leaning on the wall. So just, remember in London, we're leaning on the other person. So just use your fingertips rather than the heels of your palms, and then the hands are more like the feet then. So you just lean, just feel the sacrum heavy, pulling down and swinging forwards, lifting the heels. And just feeling the quality of the connection that you have, especially with the feet. We've done a lot of work off the heels now. So we've got that natural bouncy, springy feel in the feet and in our connection with the ground. Just see if you can get that in the hands, the fingers. So stop activity, return to stillness, and that stillness is even more active. So we have these delicate, balanced connections with the world that we touch, and it encourages the energy inside. So if we have our heels down and we're rooting and sinking, then basically we just become quiet inside. We want to become alive, awake, and that's incredibly intense and active. And for that, I need my connections with the ground and with the other person to be light and springy. And then just a little bit, just leaning back on the wall. Again, just try and get the heels up. So you probably have to have the feet slightly closer to the wall than normal. And I've got this sort of pacing, kneading, kneading action with the ground that's just rocking my sacrum on the wall. Like I'm giving myself a massage. And this is becoming really active, the heart. Okay. And now let's just finish. So, riding horse. So, hands on the hips. Let the weight of the elbows, which is pushing the hands down and forwards, bring you off the heels. The spirit. There's a lightness that rises. Remember that story from the classics about, I think it was Young Chen Ho, Young Chen Fu's dad. And the story goes that he was just inside doing something, and one of the servants came in to inform him that his favorite daughter had just been killed in an accident. And he was so overcome with grief, he lifted from the ground and his head hit the rafters. So it's spirit, it's lightness, it's not happiness, it's not joy. So he was, completely wrecked and bereft, and yet he floated. And that story of young Lu Chen, young Chen Ho's dad, arriving at a house in the pouring rain. His overcoat was drenched, but his Tai Chi slippers were completely dry. It's a beautiful story. So he's obviously floating above the ground. And then just bringing the feet up again, just trying to keep the heels up. And just feel that delicacy. This feeling that you just really want to crouch down, keeping a low profile. You're just really intense and lively, but you're sunk, you're low. And then heels down, but very lightly. So now I've veiled that intensity with this overcoat of energy from my back. but inside I'm still the coat hanger lifting upwards. Okay, great.